Shut him up at all costs. The haunting voice of Prince Andrew on the tape recorder still echoed in Beatrice's mind. The father she had always loved had suddenly turned into a cold-blooded, cruel person. Standing between love and truth, she could only choose one. The hiss of static tore through the silent night in the damp, moldy archive room of Balmoral Castle. Evelyn Hart, a 27-year-old archivist with neatly tied brown hair, stood frozen amid stacks of dusty cassette tapes, her trembling hands clutching an ancient tape recorder. The flickering fluorescent light overhead cast a faint glow on her pale face. A labelless tape thick with dust had just been found in a rotting wooden box in the corner of the storage room. Driven by curiosity, she had wiped it clean, inserted it into the machine, and pressed play. Now a deep, authoritative voice echoed, stopping her heart. "Protect me and I'll keep quiet about Virginia." Evelyn froze. It was the voice of Prince Andrew, known to her only through newspaper articles and polished photographs from royal events. But the voice responding to him was even more chilling: Jeffrey Epstein, the man convicted of heinous sex crimes, dead in prison under mysterious circumstances. The tape continued, each word slicing through the air like a razor. "Virginia Giuffre is a problem, Andrew. She knows too much. We need to ensure she doesn't say another word. I have people in New York ready to handle it, but you must keep your word." Prince Andrew's voice dropped to a near whisper. "The money's been transferred. Don't let this leak. If my house falls, Jeffrey, I'll drag you down with me." Evelyn's blood ran cold. She hit the stop button, her breath ragged. Her shaking hands dropped the pen on the table, its faint clack piercing the eerie silence. This wasn't just an archival document. It was evidence, proof of a conspiracy to cover up crimes linked to Virginia Giuffre, a victim who had publicly accused Epstein. Evelyn knew that if this tape fell into the wrong hands, her life would be in danger. She glanced around the room. Iron shelves towered with dust-covered storage boxes, and shadows seemed to shift in the corners of her vision. The wind howled through the ancient windows, whispering threats. Biting her lip, Evelyn tried to steady herself. She couldn't keep this secret alone. But who could she tell? The royal office. The police. The press. Every option felt like a path to a dangerous dead end. Making a swift decision, Evelyn grabbed a USB drive from her bag, plugged it into her old laptop, and copied the recording. Each second felt heavier, the weight of the truth pressing down on her. Once the transfer was complete, she tucked the USB into the lining of her coat, a place no one would think to check. Staring at the tape on the table, her mind swirled with questions. How many more secrets were hidden in this archive? And why was this buried here in Balmoral, the royal family's retreat? The next morning, Evelyn stood outside the castle's management office, clutching the strap of her bag. She had written a brief report stating only that she had found a sensitive document in the archives and requested guidance. The manager, Margaret Thorne, a middle-aged woman with a piercing gaze, took the report without a word. Evelyn waited for a reaction, a thank you, a question, or at least a sign of interest. But Thorne merely nodded, dismissing her back to work. As Evelyn left, she overheard Thorne on the phone, her voice a hushed urgency. "We have a problem. She found something she shouldn't have." All day, Evelyn felt eyes on her. James, a close colleague who often joked about royal gossip, avoided her. Her phone buzzed with calls from unknown numbers, but when she answered, there was only static. That evening, returning to her small lodging within the castle grounds, she found her door slightly ajar, though she was certain she had locked it. Inside, everything seemed untouched, but a chilling dread told her to leave. Hastily grabbing essentials, her heart pounding, Evelyn fled. Before leaving Balmoral, she opened an encrypted app on her phone and sent a message to Princess Beatrice, rumored to be the most principled and approachable royal. "I have evidence. Please help me." Attached was the address of an abandoned underground station on the outskirts of London, her planned hideout. As the night bus carried Evelyn into the darkness, she clutched the USB tightly. She had touched a dangerous secret, one that could topple the monarchy, and now her life was at stake. Princess Beatrice sat in her luxurious London apartment, the crystal chandelier's light glinting off her untouched cold cup of tea. It was late, and the city outside her window shimmered with dim lights. Her phone buzzed, displaying a message from an anonymous number. "I know your father is linked to Epstein. Meet me at Aldwych Underground Station 1 a.m. Tell no one." Beatrice gripped her phone, her finger hovering over the delete button. Threats and rumors targeting the royal family were nothing new. But the word Epstein stopped her cold. A memory flooded back in 2010. A younger Beatrice stood in a New York hotel hallway, watching her father Prince Andrew emerge from a private meeting with Jeffrey Epstein. He had given her a strained smile, claiming it was just business, but his evasive eyes had haunted her for years. Something wasn't right, and this message was a dagger reopening that buried doubt. She glanced at the clock, 11:45 p.m. Her heart raced as she stood pulling on a black cloak and hood. She replied, her hands trembling, "I'll be there." Without alerting her security or driver, she slipped into an old Range Rover and drove toward the long-abandoned Aldwych Underground Station. Aldwych sat tucked in a dark corner of London, its walls stained with graffiti and reeking of damp mold. The drip of water from the ceiling echoed in the desolate space, broken only by Beatrice's footsteps. Her phone's flashlight swept through the decayed corridors, landing on a small figure in the corner. Evelyn Hart, pale and clutching her coat, her eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and resolve. Princess Beatrice. Evelyn whispered, her voice shaky but firm. Beatrice nodded, her gaze sharp. "Who are you and what do you know about my father?" Evelyn didn't answer immediately. She stepped forward, handing Beatrice an old pair of earphones connected to a small device. "Listen," she said, pressing play. The hiss of static filled the air, followed by Prince Andrew's unmistakable voice, cold and clear. "Virginia Giuffre is a problem, Jeffrey. She knows too much. We need to ensure she doesn't say another word." Epstein's reply slithered through, "I have people in New York ready to handle it, but you must keep your word." Beatrice's blood drained from her face. She wanted to rip the earphones off, to scream that it was a fake, but her father's voice, the way he enunciated his distinctive low tone, was undeniable. She looked at Evelyn, her eyes pleading for another explanation. "It's real," Evelyn said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I found the tape in the Balmoral archives." Beatrice stumbled back, clutching her head. "Impossible," she murmured. "My father isn't that kind of man." But the tape, the documents, and Evelyn's earnest gaze made denial impossible. "Why give this to me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Because I have no one else to trust," Evelyn replied, her eyes flashing with desperation. "I reported it to the royal office, but they tried to silence me. They're watching me searching my room. I think you're the only one in that family who might want the truth." Beatrice stood silent, her mind reeling. She wanted to believe her father was innocent, that this was all a mistake. But the tape, the documents, and Evelyn's sincerity left her no escape. "I need time," she said, her voice hoarse, "to verify, to understand." Evelyn nodded, but her eyes were filled with worry. "You don't have much time. They know I have the tape, and if you keep it, they'll come for you." Beatrice clutched the USB Evelyn handed her, feeling its weight in her hand. As she left the station, the darkness swallowed Evelyn behind her. Driving back, a chill ran through Beatrice. She wasn't just holding a secret, she was holding a bomb that could destroy her family. Now she had to choose silence to protect the crown, or the truth, no matter how painful. Beatrice drove through London's fog-shrouded streets, the headlights blurring like tears. The USB from Evelyn burned in her pocket, a smoldering coal of truth. Her father's voice haunted her, his cold whispers to Epstein about Virginia Giuffre, about the Windsor Syndicate. She gripped the steering wheel, fighting the tremor in her hands. She needed proof, not just to confirm, but to face the brutal reality about the father she once idolized. Late at night, Beatrice slipped into the royal residence at Kensington. The hallways were dark, the ticking of a grandfather clock echoing like a predator's heartbeat. The security team had changed shifts, but she felt invisible eyes watching. Prince Andrew's office lay at the end of the corridor, its oak door heavy with warning. Beatrice entered the code, her mother's birthday, a detail that stabbed at her heart. The lock clicked sharp as a gunshot in the night. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of polished wood and faint cigar smoke. Her father's desk was piled with papers, but they were mundane bills, invitations, diplomatic notes. Beatrice scanned the room, her heart pounding. There had to be something hidden. She ran her fingers along the ancient bookshelf, brushing thick leather-bound volumes. Then a copy of A History of the British Monarchy clicked when she tugged it. The bookshelf shuddered, sliding aside to reveal a small steel door, cold as a coffin lid. Beatrice took a deep breath, her trembling hands entering the code again. The door opened, revealing a cramped secret room, her phone's light illuminating a coded safe. an old computer, and a stack of documents labeled Black Protocol. She opened the safe, still her mother's birthday, a truth that made her want to scream. Inside was a trove of crimes, detailed financial transactions, lists of Epstein's victims, and chilling handwritten notes. Virginia Giuffre's name appeared marked with paid £2 million, silenced permanently. But what froze Beatrice was another document dated just before Epstein's death in prison. J.E. has become a liability. Ordered termination, staged as prison accident. A. Beatrice staggered back, her breath caught in her throat. A. Prince Andrew. Her father hadn't just covered up Epstein's crimes, he had ordered his death to eliminate the threat. She flipped through more, her hands shaking so badly she dropped papers. The Windsor Syndicate document listed a network of power manipulating everything human trafficking, abuse, assassinations to silence dissent. Her father's name topped the list marked as coordinator. Notes detailed how they controlled the media, bribed officials, and staged accidents for those who dared speak out. Beatrice collapsed to the floor, her back against the cold wall. Tears streamed down her face, burning hot. The image of her father carrying her on his shoulders, teaching her to ride horses, laughing when she spilled cake in the kitchen, shattered like glass. He wasn't just part of the crimes. He was their architect, willing to kill to protect his reputation. "Father," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why?" She clutched her face, shoulders, shaking with sobs she couldn't hold back. Each breath was a knife tearing through the cherished memories. The father she loved was now a monster, hiding behind a royal mask. A faint noise in the hallway snapped her back. She wiped her tears, heart racing. A shadow passed the door's crack, a guard, or worse, someone from the Windsor Syndicate. She hurriedly photographed key documents, copied data from the computer to a small drive, and hid it in her boots lining. She restored everything to its place, closed the secret door, and slipped out, her heart heavy as lead. The wail of a ship's horn echoed from Tilbury docks, mingling with the crash of waves in the frigid night. Warehouse 7. A crumbling concrete shell was Beatrice and Evelyn's temporary refuge. The flickering light of a hanging flashlight cast shadows on Evelyn's pale face as she checked the USB, treating it like a ticking bomb. Beatrice sat on an old wooden crate, her mud-caked boots and red-rimmed eyes betraying her turmoil. The truth about her father and the Windsor Syndicate still cut like a blade. Evelyn broke the silence, her voice hoarse. "They found me. My London flat was ransacked last night. If I hadn't escaped, I'd probably be—" She trailed off, her gaze distant. "Are you sure you want to keep going, Princess the Windsor Syndicate?" "They don't play games." Beatrice clutched the drive hidden in her boot, feeling its weight. "I have no choice," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "If we don't act, people like Virginia Giuffre will never see justice. And my father—" She choked, the image of the father she loved replaced by a man who ordered Epstein's death to silence him. He has to answer for this. Suddenly, tires screeched outside the warehouse. Headlights swept through cracks in the stained walls, startling them both. Evelyn doused the flashlight, pulling Beatrice behind a pile of metal crates. Heavy footsteps echoed, followed by a low voice. "She's here. Check every corner." Beatrice recognized it, Vincent, her father's former bodyguard, his eyes always cold as steel. Evelyn whispered, barely audible, "They've tracked me. We have to run." Beatrice nodded, her heart pounding. She pointed to a rusted side door leading to the docks. They moved silently, crouching low to avoid the sweeping lights. But as they reached the door, a loud crash rang out. The main door was kicked open. 3 men in black faces, masked, stormed in, wielding silenced pistols. Beatrice yanked Evelyn through the exit just as a bullet struck the doorframe, sending metal shards flying. They ran along the docks, their breaths ragged in the icy air. Footsteps closed in, accompanied by shouts. "Stop or you're dead!" Beatrice glanced back, seeing Vincent lead the chase, his eyes glinting like a predator's. Evelyn, exhausted, pointed to the dock's edge, where the black waters of the Thames shimmered under moonlight. "Jump!" she hissed urgently. With no time to hesitate, Beatrice grabbed Evelyn's hand, and they plunged into the freezing river. The water stabbed like 1,000 needles, dragging them down. Gunshots rang out above bullets, tearing through the surface, creating white foam. One grazed Evelyn's leg, drawing a stifled cry as blood swirled red in the dark water. On the shore, Vincent and his men swept flashlights over the river, spotting the blood floating on the surface. They're gone, one said coldly. Vincent frowned, unconvinced. Search thoroughly, he ordered, but the swift current and darkness hid all traces. After minutes of fruitless searching, Vincent dialed a coded number. Prince Andrew's voice answered sharp and cold. Is it done? They jumped into the river, blood everywhere, Vincent reported. But the one with Evelyn Hart was Princess Beatrice. A long silence followed. Then Andrew's voice, low and menacing, find them, at all costs. The call ended, and Vincent ordered his team to scour the riverbank, but no trace of the women remained. Beneath the water, Beatrice and Evelyn, freezing and exhausted, clung to an old pier, piling hidden in the shadows. Evelyn gritted her teeth, blood still seeping from her leg, but she endured. Beatrice, shivering uncontrollably, gripped Evelyn's hand. Are you okay? She whispered. Evelyn nodded weakly, her eyes fierce with resolve. We have to survive, she said, her voice faltering. For justice. They swam slowly along the riverbank, using the current to drift away from the docks. Certain Vincent's team had left Beatrice, pulled Evelyn onto a muddy shore, hidden by tall reeds. She tore a strip from her coat, tying it tightly around Evelyn's wound to stem the bleeding. We need a safe place, Beatrice said, her voice hoarse. I know someone who can help. But as she reached for her phone, a new message appeared from Prince Andrew's number. Beatrice, come home. Don't force me to do something you'll regret. She stared at the screen, her heart sinking. This escape wasn't just about protecting the evidence, it was about saving their lives. Under London's grey sky, Beatrice supported Evelyn as they staggered through a narrow alley, the stench of garbage and sewage thick in the air. Evelyn's leg wound still bled, the makeshift bandage soaked through. Each step drew a stifled groan, but her eyes remained sharp, clutching the USB like a lifeline. Beatrice, drenched and freezing, kept glancing back, checking for pursuers. Her father's message burned in her mind. Beatrice, come home. Don't force me to do something you'll regret. We can't stay here long, Evelyn whispered weakly. They'll find us. Beatrice nodded, forcing calm. She recalled an old address, a small flat in Southwark belonging to Daniel Brooks, a close friend from university, now a police inspector. He'd once joked that if she needed to hide from the world, his door was open. Uncertain if Daniel could help, he was her only hope. She helped Evelyn into a taxi, urging the driver to hurry, and sent Daniel an encrypted message, Southwark, 4 a.m. Urgent. Daniel's flat was small, cluttered with books and papers, but warm compared to the Thames's icy grip. A tall man with disheveled hair, Daniel opened the door, his eyes widening at Beatrice's soaked state and Evelyn's near collapse. What the hell, Beatrice, he asked, pulling them inside and locking the door. No time for long explanations. Beatrice placed the USB and drive on the table, her voice trembling. My father, he's tied to Jeffrey Epstein. He ordered his death to silence him. There's an organization, the Windsor Syndicate, behind it, all trafficking, abuse, murder. This is the proof. She recounted everything from Evelyn's tape to the Black Protocol files and their escape at Tilbury. Daniel went still, rubbing his jaw, his eyes flickering between doubt and horror. If this is real, Beatrice, you're taking on the most powerful people in the world. Are you sure? Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. A message from Prince Andrew. I know you're in Southwark. Come home now, Beatrice. She froze, feeling an invisible hand choke her. They found us, she whispered, showing Daniel the phone. Daniel sprang into action, rebandaging Evelyn's wound and leading them to the building's basement, where an old car was hidden. I'll get you to a police safe house outside London, he said. But if Prince Andrew knows you're here, we're running out of time. Hours later, Beatrice stood before the royal residence in Kensington, her heart heavy. Daniel had taken Evelyn to the safe house, but Beatrice couldn't hide forever. Her father's final message, if you don't come back, your friend won't be safe, was a direct threat. She had no choice. Each step inside felt like entering a lion's den. In the opulent but cold drawing room, Prince Andrew sat in an armchair, his gaze sharp yet tinged with desperation. Under the crystal chandelier, he looked older, his hair flecked with gray, but still exuded the aura of power. You're betraying your family, he said, his voice low, like a blade. What do you think you're doing, Beatrice? Playing hero. Beatrice stood tall, fighting back tears. I know the truth, Father. I heard the tape. I saw the Black Protocol. What did you do to Epstein? To Virginia Giuffre? To all those people, her voice broke, laced with pain and anger. You ordered Epstein's death, didn't you? To protect yourself. Andrew shot to his feet, his face flushed. You understand nothing, he roared, but his eyes wavered, exposed by the truth. I did it for the family, for the kingdom. Epstein was a threat. He knew too much, and if he talked, the monarchy would collapse. I had no choice. Beatrice recoiled, the ground beneath her crumbling. No choice, she echoed, tears spilling. You chose to kill. You chose to cover up crimes. You chose power over justice. She stepped forward, pointing at him, her voice choked. I thought you were my hero. Now I see a coward. Andrew slapped her, the force sending her staggering. Enough, he bellowed. You think you can destroy me? Destroy this family? You're my blood, Beatrice. Stop this or you'll lose everything, your title, your future, everything. Beatrice clutched her cheek, tears streaming, but she didn't bow. I'd rather lose it all than live a lie, she said, her voice steady. Andrew signaled 2 guards at the door. Lock her in her room, he ordered, his tone icy. For her own safety. Beatrice's room, though adorned like a royal parlor with thick carpets and framed paintings, couldn't hide its truth, a prison. The windows were locked, curtains drawn, and the guards' footsteps echoed rhythmically outside. Beatrice sat on the bed's edge, hands clenched, her gaze vacant. Her father's words haunted her. You're betraying your family. She touched her boot where the black protocol drive remained hidden. It was her only weapon, but also a noose around her neck. She feared that if she didn't act soon, Evelyn and Daniel wouldn't survive. A soft tap at the window broke the silence. Beatrice's heart raced. Pulling the curtain, she saw Daniel Brooks's familiar silhouette through the frosted glass. He signaled for silence, then pried the window open with a small tool. Hurry, he whispered, helping her out. Evelyn's at the safe house. I've contacted a special investigations team. We need to expose this now. Beatrice climbed out, her legs trembling as they hit the ground. My father knows everything, she said, her voice faltering. He won't let us go. Daniel gripped her shoulder, his eyes firm. That's why we move fast. I've sent a copy of Evelyn's USB data to a reporter at The Guardian. If we don't make it, they'll still publish. They vanished into the night, piling into an old van waiting nearby. As it sped away from the residence, Beatrice glanced back at the light from her father's window. Part of her hoped he'd change, show remorse, but she knew it was a fantasy. At the safe house outside London, Evelyn sat in an armchair, her bandaged legs still throbbing. She looked up as Beatrice entered, her eyes bright with relief. You okay? She asked, her voice weak but caring. Beatrice nodded, though her heart was shattered. She set the drive on the table. We have it all, the tape, the Black Protocol, the Windsor Syndicate list. But if we go public, the monarchy will crumble. My father, he'll be arrested. Evelyn placed a hand on Beatrice's, her gaze steady. You've done the right thing. Trust yourself. Beatrice nodded, tears falling silently. She knew Evelyn was right, but the pain of losing the father she loved was a wound that wouldn't heal. Daniel interrupted. We're out of time. The Royal Council is holding an emergency meeting tonight. If we're going public, this is our shot. The Royal Council chamber at Buckingham Palace was heavy as a tomb. Senior members sat around a long wooden table, their eyes cold under the crystal chandelier's glow. Prince Andrew sat at the head, his face taut but regal. Beatrice entered, clutching the USB and drive, followed by Daniel and Evelyn, limping on her crutch. As she stepped toward the center, Andrew shot up, blocking her path, his voice low and sharp. Beatrice, stop this now. You can't do this. Beatrice met his gaze, her heart aching but unwavering. I have to, father, she said, her voice trembling yet resolute. For justice. Andrew grabbed her arm, his eyes a mix of fury and pleading, but the council's stares left him powerless. He released her, stepping back, his face flushed. A senior member voice, stern, spoke, Princess Beatrice. You claim to have evidence. Show us or don't waste our time. Beatrice plugged the USB into the projector, and Prince Andrew's voice filled the room, cold and clear, discussing Virginia Giuffre and handling Epstein. She presented the Black Protocol files, names, transactions, crimes, trafficking, abuse, assassinations. A document stopped the room cold, Andrew's handwritten note ordering J.E.'s termination, staged as prison accident. The room erupted in murmurs. Members exchanged glances, some pale, others shaking their heads. Andrew slammed the table, roaring, "It's forged! You can't believe her! She's destroying our family!" But his eyes faltered, his voice hollow. Beatrice stood firm, tears streaming but unshaken. "This is the truth," she said, "and you must face it." The council fell silent, the air heavy as lead. A senior member voice, low, ordered, "Arrest Prince Andrew. We'll review all members, but not a word leaves this room. The public must not know, not yet." Two guards entered, cuffing Andrew. He glared at Beatrice, his eyes filled with pain and resentment. "You'll regret this," he whispered as they led him away. Evelyn, having handed over all evidence to the Special Investigations Team, left England under a new identity. Her leg wound still ached, but she carried it as a reminder of the fight she'd chosen. Beatrice stood alone in the royal apartment, now empty, once a home of happy memories. She had done the right thing, exposing her father's and the Windsor Syndicate's crimes, but the cost was steep. Her beloved father, the monarchy's reputation, and her faith in family shattered like crystal. Leaving Buckingham, stepping into London's dark night, Beatrice wondered if justice was worth the price of everything she'd held dear.